everyone, and today we will be learning about functions in Python. Now, as before, if you're stuck on this topic, don't worry, I have made a practice notebook for you, and you can access it by clicking the link in the comments below. Okay, so let's go on to our Jupyter notebook and start learning about functions in Python. See you there! Okay, so here I am at my Jupyter notebook, and I thought I would first give you an introduction to functions. And this video will in this video I'm going to tell you what a function is and how to create one. And note that functions will be one of our main building blocks when we construct larger and larger amounts of code to solve problems. Okay, so first we need to ask ourselves, what is a function? So if you want to think it in the advanced way, it's a useful device that groups together a set of statements so they can be run more than once. And they can also let us specify parameters that can serve as inputs to the functions. Okay, so if you don't understand that, I'm gonna read out this explanation now. So this is the more easier one. So they just allow us to not have to repeatedly write the same code again and again. So a bit like a reusable plastic bag. And a bit like the input function. Loads of people use this function, so you wouldn't want to write all the code for that input function all over and over again. So all we need to do is just call input, okay? And it's really easy. So functions are the most basic levels of reusing code in Python, and it will also allow us to start thinking of a program design whenever we see like our favorite website or animation or anything like that, or even a game. So it will get you thinking, because functions are the main things in a website or a game or animation or anything, okay? So first, I'm going to show you what the function syntax is. And what a syntax is, it's the structure. So here is the structure of a function. So first, you start off by typing in def, and that lets our Python interpreter know that we are defining a function. Then you put your name of your function. So in our case, anything, and a bit like similar to a variable, you put underscores if you have a space in your name. Okay, so instead of a space, you can put an underscore, and then you put a set of brackets, and then you can put your parameters. Now, parameters are what you want to use in your inputs that you need to specify when you call your function, and these are optional. And after you put your parameters, your name of your function, and write down def, then you need to put in your colon, okay? And then after that, you see these triple quotes, and this is a doc string, and this is like a very short explanation for what the function does. And then after your doc string, you write down what you want your function to do when you execute it. So here I've got a very simple template for a function, and I'm going to call it say hello. Okay, so what my function is going to do is it's just going to print out hello. Okay, and I wrote down pass it because it was a template. And then since it's just printing out hello, all I need to type in is print and then hello. Okay, and then if I run this and run this, it says hello. Now let me press right now shift and tab on here, and there we go, our doc string appeared over here, print out hello. Okay, and that is because I mentioned my doc string here, so it will be mentioned here. And what the signature is the name of the function, and then it says type function over here, and then it says the file. So you need to know that if you're not sure on a function, you can go ahead and look at the doc string. So let me type in another function that we haven't learnt about. So this is a len function. and it says returns the number of items in a container. So in our case, like a string or a list, okay? But that was just an example. So here is our very simple hello function, and if we run it without the brackets, then it just says what it is, okay? So a bit like that whole information box squished in one, okay? So now we've learned how to just do a very simple function. We are going to do a greeting function now, and this is also very simple. So I'm going to write down def and then greeting, and I've got one parameter, and that's name. Okay, so I want to print hello space, and then I want to put plus and then name. Okay, so if you don't want to put plus, you can, it's fine, you can put a comma instead, and I prefer that way. So if I say greeting, it's there's a typo, and that's because this parameter over here is required and I forgot to put it in. And if you and a parameter mentioned when you're trying to execute a function is called an argument. Okay, so I'm just going to say my name will be Tom. Oops, let me put a string here. So I need to turn it into string, sorry. Hello, Tom. Okay, so that worked. Let's try this again. So greeting, and then Sophie. Hello, Sophie. Now, if now I'm not going to add much. I'm not going to add doc strings throughout the other videos in this course because I will be explaining what the functions do. But I'm going to add it in this course so you guys know. I'm going to add it in this video so you guys know what doc strings do. So again, I'm going to say greet the user. Okay, so if I shift and tab this again, this will come out in the docstring component. In the oops, let me put in another name again. So let me just put in Tom, and there we go. It says no docstring because I still need to run this. Okay, so let me do that now. Greets the user. There we go. So we need to run this again. So this time docstring is greet the user, and see here are all our details. Now if you want to find out all the other details, there's not much, so you can just press the X button. Okay, so now we have made our simple greeting function. We are going to go on to how to use return in our functions. Now return looks like this, and it's very popular when using functions. And return statement it allows the function to return a result that can then be stored as a variable, okay? Because you can't store the print function in a variable, can you? But you can store the return statement in a variable. Okay, so in this addition function, in this next function, we will be using the return statement. And this one is called def add num. Remember our pair of brackets, and then num1. And if you want multiple parameters, put a comma in between and num, and then you can put your parameters. Okay, so my parameters are num1 and num2. I'm just going to put a quick doc string there. And this doc string will say add two values together. Okay, sorry about that spelling error again. And then I am going to put return this time instead of print. Okay, so I could say so I'm going to say return num1 plus num2. So when putting return, you don't need to put any brackets around it unless you want to, but loads of people prefer just putting it like this, okay? So let's call it. So I'm going to say add num, and then I'm going to put in 6 and 7, and it gives me 13, and bravo, that is correct. Okay, so um this can we can also store our function call in a variable. So I could say result is equal to add num 6 7, and then I could call result, and there we go, it gives me that. Okay, so these can also be equally useful when you're doing larger programs. Okay, so let's see what happens if we input two strings. Okay, so I'm going to say, let's change this over here, and then, so I'm going to say 6 and 7, and then I'm going to run this again, and it says 67, because if you concatenate a string like this, it will just give it like it will just concatenate it like a normal string, okay? It won't add the values inside the quotations together. It will just concatenate the string like a normal string, okay? So now we have done that, we are going to use break, continue, and pass statements in our code. And remember, we introduced these in while loops in the while loops video. So you can go ahead and check that out if you like. But we are going to still use the break, continue, and pass statements over here. So let's go over another example, and this one will be a bit more advanced than these simple ones over here. So this function will check if a number is prime, and this is a very common exercise in Python, and so we will try it out. Now we know a number is prime if that number is only evenly divisible by 1 and itself. Okay, so let's write our let's write our function to check all the numbers from 1 to a certain number and perform mod checks, because this mod function will be really useful. Okay, so this mod function will be really useful when defining prime numbers. Okay, so I'm going to say def and then is prime, and I need the parameter num. Okay, and then I'm going to put a docstring again. And my docstring will be simple method for finding primes. Okay, let me just correct this, and now we are going to put a for loop in our function, and that is perfectly normal. Okay, so I'm going to say for n in range 2 and the number, so this parameter over here. So let me just tell you now, if you're using the range function over here, you can put two numbers in it, but remember, set that as your max, because if you put multiple numbers, you're going to get really confused, even though advanced coders tend to do so. But you right now should be using 2 to 1 numbers in your range function. And now I have put this for loop over here. I'm going to put my colon, and I'm going to type in if the number mod n, so if the number divided by every number in range 2 to the number that you have to provide, then so if this calculation over here is equal to 0, I want to print num, and then num is not prime. Okay, and so this is our first condition. And now we need to put our else statement. Okay, so else, and this here I'm going to put a comment. So if the mod is not equal to 0, that obviously means it's not prime. Okay, so else I want to print I want to print down num, and then is prime. Okay, so let's run this statement. So I'm going to say is prime 16. 16 is not, sorry, I don't know what happened there. Let's just go through our thing again. Let's go through our thing again. So for n in range 2 and then number, if the number mod n is equal to 0, I want to print down num, and the number is not prime. And then, sorry about that. Sorry about this error. I want to break. Okay, so nearly forgot that. Then let's run this again. 16 is not prime. So as soon as I say is not prime, as soon as the number is not prime, I want to break it. Okay, otherwise it will say 16 is not prime, 16 is not prime, 16 is not prime, 16 is prime. And that is not what we wanted, because that's not how we check for primes. Okay, so let's test this on a different number now. A number that is prime, and that is 17. 17 is prime. There we go, it's working. So note how the else over here lines up with for and not if. And this is because we want the for loop to execute all possibilities in the range before printing our number is prime. Because as you saw in the output before, when it said 16 is not prime, 16 is not prime, 16 is not prime, 16 is prime, that is because it was looking through, it was doing this over and over again until it was prime, okay? And that is not what we wanted, but it's a really good example if you want to think about it. So we want it to execute all the possibilities in the range before printing that our number is prime. So also note how we break the code after the first print statement, because as soon as we determine that a number is not prime, we want to break out of the loop. Okay, so now I'm going to show you I want to show you an example that returns true or false if if a piece of text has alliteration in it. Now this function is really fun to use, and it's really fun to play around with as well. So this function I wanted to call it Alliteration Wizard. So in case you don't know what alliteration is, it's when the same number is used the same letter is used more than once, and in a sentence. Okay, so a bit like moody mushroom. Okay, so Okay, and our parameter here is text. And first we need to find a variable called word list. So this word list variable is equal to our text, and our text will be split, and that will be equal to word list. Okay, and after I split the text, I want to return word list. I want to return word list's first element, okay? So that first element will be the first word in that sentence. So I can index that by putting 0, and I want to return the first letter of that first word. So again, I want to index even more. And I'm going to set that this is equal to word list. So I'm going to say return if this word list, if the first letter of the first word is equal to the first letter of the second word. So here, because if you're confused why I wrote this, is because if I write this over here, and remember, this is a comparison operator. If I write this statement over here, it will return a Boolean value. So let's run this, and I'm going to say Alliteration Wizard. Oops. So Alliteration Wizard, and then I'm going to put a string, hello, Harper. Okay, so just a random name. That's true because both letters start with the same name. Okay, so now I'm going to put Alliteration Wizard, Moody, whoops, Moody, person. Okay, and this is false. So as you can see, making functions like this will be really easy, and it's actually really fun if you get into the gist of it. Now, this is all that's for today, and if you want to practice more on functions, please read the functions practice notebook. And also, I am going to tell you, I have also linked a function practice exercises that you can complete if you're still stuck, okay? So, that's it for today. Bye!